Welcome to the Bare Essentials Podcast, where the talk is real and hibernating on your goals is not an option.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Wallace. Really appreciate you joining us today. Really excited to interview this next guest. He's going to share not only his personal story, but also give some advice, tips regarding fitness. So without further ado, let's welcome Chris Wing to the show. Thanks for joining today, Chris. Really appreciate it. For anyone in the audience that knows you, even mainly for the folks that don't know who you are, if you could give an intro telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Right now, I'm currently the owner and operator of Redline Athletic Center in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, where we do a lot of fitness and martial arts training. I have an extensive martial arts background, been training since I was 5 years old. Fourth degree black belt, Kempo karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and certified through ISSA for fitness training.
Well, so obviously, as you can all hear, we have someone very qualified here, and that's what I was hoping to do. And for those of you who don't know, I've known Chris now at least probably like 5 to 6 years, but Chris has been my trainer now for the last 3 years, and
yeah,
I can't thank Chris enough for everything that he's helped me with. So Chris, I like this when I do these, I like to do a little bit of an icebreaker. So could you maybe tell the audience something interesting about yourself that doesn't have to do with personal training or martial arts?
Absolutely. This is probably what I'm most excited to talk about. I am really into restoring cast iron cookware, like skillets, Dutch ovens, things like that, particularly vintage and antique pieces. So I've restored pieces as old or that were from, the late 1800s. So really into that. And then my latest venture, about 4 months ago, I made a TikTok channel solely dedicated to cast iron cookware and restorations, everything cast iron related, hence the hat. And that's really taken off recently. So.
Well, that's fantastic. Could you, what's the name of the channel?
It's Cast Iron Chris with underscore. So cast_iron_Chris. Yeah.
All right. So everybody, if you're not looking for a trainer per se, definitely check out the TikTok channel.
Awesome.
So Chris, that's awesome. So, obviously from what I know, I've known you a little while now, and I figured with being a personal trainer, I thought it'd be good to, and you did a little bit in the intro, but could maybe go a little deeper into your athletic background.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I've been training martial arts since I was 5 years old. When I was 16, I really dove deep and got obsessed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Big time. Then when I was 18, I took my first amateur fight, had a stellar amateur career. And then I think it was 2010 is when I turned pro. And then I had 8 pro fights underneath my belt, before opening up the rack.
Well, that's really cool. As far as getting into fighting, I mean, how's that come about? Who influences that? Is that all you? You're like, I want to fight, or is there anybody kind of pushing you in that direction?
Yeah, like I said, when I was 5, I started with karate and was really great at that. Really excelled at that. Did great in tournaments. And when I was about, I think like 15, my dad started jiu-jitsu. He was training at a small little place in Bristol, and he wanted me to come up and train with him. And I was really into like BMX also at the time. I'm like, no, that's stupid. I'm not doing it. And he'd call me in his room to like practice some moves that he read in a jiu-jitsu book, and I still had zero interest in it. And then one Father's Day, he wanted as a gift to go up with him and train. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. This is going to be stupid. But, and I went there and fell in love with it immediately. Just the grind, the physicality of it, got my ass kicked because I literally didn't know anything. People were just simply cross choking me with a gi on, and I had no idea what a cross choke was. So I was getting tapped out just by cross chokes. And that just launched me in deep. So really fell in love with jiu-jitsu, did a ton of competitions, traveled all over. I mean, we can get into that later, but traveled literally all over the world to training jiu-jitsu. and then kind of just a natural progression to start fighting. You know, at the time I was 18 and took my first amateur fight. I was really into the UFC. I was always good at combat sports. I was like really excelling at the time in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, you know, I could do this. And then I was 18 and took my first amateur fight.
So that's awesome. So I have to ask this because I've kind of went through this a little bit with my own son. So, hey, I'm going to fight. How's that go over with your dad, with your parents?
So my dad was one of my main coaches the whole process throughout my whole career. So he was into it. We've had our martial arts school since 1995. So I started training when I was 5. He opened up the school in 1995. So we had our school running simultaneously. So he was obviously really pushing me there as well.
Okay.
My mom said at the time, now I'm 18, so I'm still living at home. My mom said that if I fought, I don't know why she even said this, but if I fought, she'd kick me out of the house. So I did not tell her I took an amateur fight. I won the fight, but I literally had 2 black guys, and I showed up in the kitchen, and I'm like, Mom, I'm okay. And I won. And then she was right in my corner since then and was in love with it as well.
That's awesome. I guess, thank God you won. Who knows if you lost, you might've been out on your ass, right? No,
right. Yeah, for sure.
So Chris, I know you said it, and obviously your dad's a big influence, right? Now, how old were you when you got your black belt? You mentioned that.
In jiu-jitsu you're talking about?
Yeah,
right?
in jiu-jitsu, I'm sorry.
I got my black belt actually after I was done fighting. So I think that was in 2013, so about 9 years ago.
Well, and if you don't mind me asking, at that point, who awarded you that black belt? Who was your trainer?
Our instructor, Jacau. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Wow. So that's like I said, that's amazing. And I obviously, you and we talk about fighting a lot all the time. So this is definitely fun for me. So
yeah, and I'm surprised, man, you didn't say anything about my shirt.
Hey, send me location. I knew that was a Khabib reference. For the audience out there who may or may not know MMA, Chris and I both, we talk a lot about MMA, and that is definitely a nice MMA reference. So, so I think you went through, how many amateur fights you say you had? 10?
I had 11.
11.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was your record amateur?
I was 9-2, and then I'd won 3 championships in 3 successively heavier weight classes. Okay.
So at that point, are the pro organizations, are people starting to sniff around like, hey, like, are you getting kind of recruited for that at that point?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
And what were some of those organizations?
Trying to recall now. I don't know specifically, but just a lot of people were trying to push me to go pro. Asylum at the time, I New Breed Fighters, who I fought for. I think they were trying to start a pro league that I don't think happened. They wanted, I fought a bunch for in combat. I think they were kind of reaching out at some points too. I think we even got offered fights before I even turned pro for some organizations, but it's been a quick minute. So,
wow. And did you end up fighting Bellator?
Yeah, I had 1 fight in Bellator. That was my, I want to say 4th or 5th fight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when they had the really ugly gray canvas.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they definitely have made improvement. I mean, now from the time you were doing this till now, I mean, I feel like it's even more mainstream.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
So you're in the martial arts. You love jiu-jitsu. You're going that direction, fighting. When you started training, was it a goal for you to turn pro, or did that just kind of happen?
No, that was the goal from day one. I'm going to turn pro. I'm going to get in the UFC and see where that takes me from there. And the goal was to be a UFC champion. But no, first amateur fight in, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely, I'm good at this. This is what I'm going to do.
Okay. All right. So, all right. I don't want to dissect your pro career, but eventually you turn pro, you have some success, right? I assume eventually as you turn pro, it gets a little harder. There's success. There's probably there's wins, there's some losses, right?
Right.
So I kind of now, what I'll call that fork in the road moment, right? You have this goal, you're fighting, but something kind of clicks where you're like, you know what? maybe this isn't the goal anymore. I want to
Yeah.
move in a different direction. If you could
Yeah.
talk us through that mindset and how that happens.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll circle back to the end of my pro career. But when I was at that phase where I knew that I got to come up with a plan B, what can I do at that point? I really didn't have any other skills besides martial arts skills, and we've always had the school and I've always taught, so I know I could teach.
Mm-hmm.
And even as a fighter, I was kind of known for my strength conditioning, my cardio, and I always loved the fitness aspect of in general in life and for fighting. So if I'm not fighting, as a career anymore, what can I do? I'm going to do what I'm good at, martial arts and fitness. There was a, year or two transition before I took over kind of the family business and then moved the location and opened up the Redline Athletic Center, so it's just taking what am I good at? What skills do I have and being able to, monetize them.
Yeah. So, and that's a good segue. So to kind of circle back a little bit now. So it sounds like it's during your pro career, but you're not at the end of your career, which probably a great move, right? You're kind of not at the end yet. You're starting to think about your future beyond fighting. Talk us through a little bit of the ending of your pro career, as far as like maybe last couple fights, and then finally, ultimately, your last fight. And then when like, listen, now it's time to move out of fighting and go in that other direction.
Yeah, sure. So to go back a little bit even more, like I said, I was 9-2 as an amateur, had a stellar career, won 3 different championships in 3 different weight classes. My very last amateur fight, I won by knockout. My first 2 pro fights, I won by devastating knockout. I mean, literally the first guy I fought, I knocked him out so bad when he woke up, he didn't know his name. So I'm off to a killer start with a ton of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Then my third pro fight, I fight Jesus Martinez, lose the fight. And really after that, it wasn't just the loss, but it was definitely a loss mixed with a lot of things going on in my personal life at the time. I just can never get that momentum back. So then I'm 2-1, and then I'm winning, I'm losing, I'm winning, I'm losing. And my very last fight, I went in 4-3. I fought this dude, Chris Dempsey, who eventually actually made it into the UFC, which is good. Lost the decision to him. I'm 4-4. I'm 500 now, where
right.
Not that long ago, a year or two, I'm the next best thing, top prospect. Right. And it's pretty much wiped away from me. I'm 500. What can I do to get back? I have to win 10 fights in a row. That's just not probable, So at that point, got to come up with another plan, another idea.
Right. Well, I think I've said this to you before in some of our personal conversations. I think even me now, me being a little bit older, a lot older than you actually, going to be 50, right? I kind of, when I hear you talk about it the way you do, matter of factly, and the fact that you were smart enough and able to, smart enough, and you make that decision and and you get out when you felt you needed to. I mean, I have a lot of respect for that decision. So I feel like there's a lot of fighters out there that I think really need to think about that more. So, I mean, I think that's good on you. So now you're done fighting. Now we get into your starting personal training, doing all this. I'll ask this question: when does Redline Athletic Center? When's that officially begin? When's that open?
I believe I was gonna nail in a date earlier, but I forgot. I think it was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, 2016. I was 27 or 28 at the time. Yeah. Okay.
And when that opens, am I correct in saying you're done your pro career at that point, correct?
Yeah. You know what? I still have not. I've never used the term retired.
Oh, so you're still active.
I'm on a very long hiatus. I mean, people ask me, are you going to fight again? I say no.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. I just say, no, I'm good on that. But I never like to use that word retired. But yes, at the time in my head, I'm done fighting.
Okay. So you leave your options open. Now, the place you open Redline at, I think you mentioned this to me before. That was the first place that you've eventually moved from that location to the location you're at now. Is that right?
Our original location was always in Trevos, a couple little spots in Trevos. That was under the term or the brand Wings Martial Arts. Okay. When I moved the location and kind of took the reins on everything, I wanted to change name. My fight name was Redline.
Okay.
So I always thought if I'm going to open up a spot, it'd be cool to call it the Rack, the Redline Athletic Center.
Nice. Yeah, and it definitely is a great name. And you know what? I should have put a picture in here of your logo because I think your logo is badass. So, Chris, now I want to get into a lot more about the personal training and Redline Athletic Center. For me personally, when I walked in the Redline 3 years ago, I was definitely at my worst. And I'll never forget, as I'm warming up, you had a quote on the board that said, "Comfort is a slow death." And that really hit me at that point. Want to see for you why do you have it on the board, and what does that mean in your words?
Sure. Yeah, I really love that saying. To me, when I think of a slow death, that's agony. And to me, living a life that is always comfortable or in your comfort zone is a life of mediocrity. And I like to say that mediocrity is like a warm pool where it's very easy to get into. It's super nice when you're in, and it's really hard to get out. You don't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, a life of comfort is a life of mediocrity. If you don't push yourself, whether that's physically or mentally, it could be something like literally quitting that job you can't stand,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe something like competition, something as small as doing a 5K. Let's say you like to run, every morning, and you're just running around your block, putting yourself out there and just doing something as small as a 5K. Now you got to do it in front of people. That's getting even just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And to me, that's going to lead to just a little bit more of a fulfilling life.
Yeah, for me. I mean, one of the things I've been talking about a lot in some of the episodes that I did was about stretching that comfort zone. And I mean, I think over the last 3 years, especially coming over there with you, you've definitely helped me push my comfort zone physically and mentally. I even remember going back a couple months ago when it was a Monday and it was a killer workout. And I remember saying to him, like, you know what? Hell with it. Always put the hardest workout on Monday now, because not only is it physically the hardest, but mentally on a Monday morning, it makes it even harder. So I'll have to work through two things. So that's definitely good. And I think that leads right into this. As a personal trainer, there's the obvious about planning workouts, doing all the physical part, right? But I would think that a lot of your job is almost being a motivational, you're a motivational speaker, almost really having to motivate people and knowing different types of people, how to motivate each one of them, what really helps push them.
Yeah, no, for sure. My style is like you could tell maybe from this interview, I'm very laid back, easygoing guy. I'm not the boot camp drill sergeant. I'm not the David Goggins type. That's just not me. It wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel authentic to my clients. I have a more subtle approach to be able to get people what I need them to do. It makes me kind of think like one of the best coaches I ever had was my wrestling coach when I was fighting, Mike Malanconico, great guy. And he was not a yeller, fantastic coach, knew his shit for sure. But either sometimes during the practice or after, he'd have everyone sit down and he would just shoot from the hip and just start talking. And just by the end, you're like, yeah, you know what, next time I'm going to do better. And, I got to step my game up and it was super just laid back. He wasn't in your face screaming. And that's the approach I like to take with people. Yeah,
I definitely can attest to that. I mean, I think you've always been able to push me, and you've never had to raise your voice, obviously. I remember, I always laugh at this story and I tell it to my wife and a lot of people. I'll never forget, to give you all an idea. Chris had me doing an exercise on some ropes. I'm literally holding the ropes and pulling myself up. I'm kind of inverted. Never forget this. I fell right on my ass. Now, Chris didn't yell, but he didn't comfort me either, right? He just said, "Okay, get up." and I did. Yeah, and sure. And I'll never forget, I was like, it makes sense. I could sit here on my ass or I can get up and try to finish, right? And I did. So it was definitely helpful. Things like that always helped me. So for each kind of individual, like, how do you customize the workouts? What what goes into each workout? What are the things you have to consider?
Yeah. So first thing, kind of right off the bat, I don't ever make things up on the fly. Like, you come in, all my laptop's a spreadsheet. What I call a program is your workout. It's done way ahead of time based off of the individual client, which is you, as opposed to this other person or this other person. So everything's thought out well beforehand. It really depends on the client. I've trained all walks of life. Literally, I've trained seniors, like people close to 80. I've trained special needs kids, professional athletes, high school athletes, you name it, I probably trained them, and also depends on goals. Are they just trying to get healthy? Are they trying to lose weight? Are they trying to put on some size? Are they really focused on putting on, some pounds of their deadlift or their squats? So it's very goal specific, and really just, again, like I said, client specific based on age, body types, things like that,
So that leads right into my next point. So I can imagine that, it is specific to goals, right? But I know you train a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
You help weight cuts, things like that. I'm assuming that a lot more probably goes into that than, say, the average person, myself, walking in, right? I'm sure there's a whole lot more work that goes into that.
Yeah, it really, yeah, for sure. A lot of it is opponent specific too. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to grapple a lot? Are you trying to stay on the outside? You need to be a little bit more explosive than the last time. I also, like you've seen when I've worked with your son, especially with any athlete, but especially the fighters, I do a lot of reaction drills, cognitive drills, spatial awareness drills, problem solving drills, where you don't just come in and I beat the hell out of you for 45 minutes and make sure you don't get tired. That's part of the job. I want you to be able to not get tired, but I also need you to think under pressure and be able to listen to your coach and execute, the game plan.
Yeah, and that and Chris, honestly, even for me, and I think you would probably agree with this, even when I first started with you, right? And again, I was at my worst physically, probably mentally too. I notice even myself now, coordination, everything, I think from the mental kind of stimulation of things you do that you make me do. I can even feel myself now. I feel like I kind of pick up the movement quicker, things like that. So I can only imagine some of the stuff I've seen you do with my son, for example, and other fighters, how much that helps.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I got a good one here for you, and I'm sure you deal with this. Somebody comes in, they're hiring you to train them. How do you handle if the person who hired you to train them, if I get that they may have trouble, so there's that aspect. How do you handle if they're having trouble? But then how do you handle if there's people that just refuse to do the movement, or they're done, they stop? How do you handle those situations?
Sure. So it's a simple answer to that last question is that never happens, because as a trainer, it's my job to be able to make a program and a workout that I know the client can handle. I would never put in a movement or something that's so difficult that someone can't handle it and that'll break them down. That should never happen. You should never have someone to literally refuse to do an exercise or keep going. I need to be able to push you maybe to the edge right before your breaking point, but not past it. And that really even takes place with some fighters sometimes. To kind of go back to your first question, sometimes, especially with fighters, I might have to adapt on the fly, because just because I have a workout planned in my spreadsheet doesn't mean I can always execute it to that T, based on a lot of external variables, the lack of sleep, how they eat, stress, work, what's going on. So I might have a fighter coming in that I have a badass game plan for, and I see that they're dragging the ass, and maybe they're close to camp, and I know, or close to the fight rather, and I know if I just push them to the edge and I break them, let's say 2 weeks before the fight, and they're broken, that's bad for them mentally before their fight. So I need to be able to adapt on the fly, maybe pull back the reins a little bit without them even knowing, and shift gears a little bit and make them have a successful workout and keep them on track.
And that's interesting, because now I can say honestly, in 3 years, right? I mean, I was probably close a few times. It makes sense to me now, though, because I don't really think I've ever quit on a workout or on myself. And now hearing you explain that, it makes a hell of a lot more sense to me.
Sure.
The way you program and the way that you help me get through the workouts, so that, and I always feel like, and you're right, I think even for me, right, I think if I was coming over there and I was having, oh my God, I can't finish this. I can't do that. Right. It'd be bad for me because I probably would want to stop coming. I would want to give up, but I think you make it to where I can succeed in a way that I'm always pushing myself. And I think for the people listening, not fighters, I'm talking more to the average people. This is why not just Chris, a very reputable personal trainer of any sort, I recommend it highly. Now, listen, I know I've talked to Chris about this before. You do pay for a personal trainer, but listen, everyone, you're investing in yourself and in your health. And trust me, I've been 3 years with Chris. I never feel that I've broken the bank or that Chris is not giving me what I've paid for. And it's been the best money I've ever spent. So I just want to say that at this point. So please remember that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I feel like you got to look at it too, cost versus value. Those are two different things. So,
yeah. Well, Chris, honestly, I will say this, and for more of the people listening, yes, I pay money to come see Chris, right? I pay every 2 weeks, whatever. I pay Chris monthly, whatever it is. But I can tell you this, I really haven't been to the doctor. I'm off of 2 medications that I was on that I tell you right now, I was actually paying close to $110 a month for those medications. I haven't paid for those since month 4 of being with Chris. So when you add all that up, you get but you get the benefits of getting your life back, and you save money in the long run. So it's absolutely worth it. All right. So Chris, I know we kind of talked about not a one size fits all approach, but just for the people listening, if you had to say, look, is in your professional opinion, could you give almost like a basic strategy that maybe anybody could use to get started before even coming to you?
Are we talking fitness or nutrition? A little bit of both, weight loss?
A little bit of both. Yeah, a little bit of both.
I'd say really for both, but maybe leaning a little bit more to nutrition and diet. I would say if you're new to it, all right, let's say you're a resolutioner and then this is now your time to start. I would say don't do anything extreme. Now, for example, with diet, people want to lose weight. So they a lot of times will eliminate an entire food group. Like literally go from a normal diet. Now I'm not going to have any more carbs. I'm going to go keto. That's very extreme. Or I hear this one constantly and it bugs me is I'm going to cut out bread and cheese. Okay. But my question is, do you like bread? Yes. Do you like cheese? Yes. So you're going to cut out something you do really enjoy. For how long? A week, a month, forever? Is it sustainable?
Right.
So that's very extreme. I'd rather people start with something a little bit more moderate and kind of progress. And same thing with fitness, like you've done the 75 hard. If someone goes from like off the couch, I wouldn't want them doing 75 hard. You didn't do that. Give yourself a month, 2 months, work yourself up, get your feet wet. And again, just nothing really extreme. And then I'd say, if someone's trying to lose weight and they are successful in the beginning, we've talked about this before, is the honeymoon phase. Particularly with working out. When people are working out and losing weight, it's fun. And then workouts become fun and fitness becomes fun. And to me, that lasts generally 6 months to maybe a year.
Okay.
People seeing the results and they push harder. And now they're going to work out from 3 days a week to 5 days a week to 6 days a week. Sometimes it's going to be twice a day. Next thing you know, in 6 months, a year, they're burnt out. And it's not really fun anymore. Right. Then you go from working out 5 days a week to 3 days a week every other day. And now you're not working out at all. So my other thing I would just, recommend is, once you hit about six months or so, that's the time where you really got to push, not just in the beginning.
No, I think that's really helpful because I think, and we talked about this actually a little bit today, I think people are always looking for the magic solution, right? And I think you would agree with this. I think the solution is it's up to us as individuals to take responsibility for our health. You made a comment to me today that I was driving home. I was like, wow, that was pretty good. And it was, we all know the answer. And we do. We know we should eat better. We know we should exercise more. It's just a matter of, it's a matter of executing and doing it. And if you need that additional help and support, that's where the other part, somebody like Chris comes in. So telling you all, this is where it really helps. And I actually started out with Chris, I believe it was twice a week. I actually at a point now, probably for last year, Chris, I'm 3 times a week. I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
And I've never felt better. Some of my goals, I can't believe that I've hit, and I continue to progress. And that's definitely thanks to Chris's expertise. So thanks for that.
I appreciate it.
All right. You touched on this. I was going to ask you about nutrition. You touched on it, and thank you for that, because I think like people want to, isn't it funny? I think people sometimes would rather work out really hard and eat all the shit they want to eat as opposed to trying to take care of both ends. So I think that was good. Thanks for touching on that.
If I can, real quick on that note, that's very, very common because you got endorphins pumping from your workout. But not only that, your workouts are what, 30 minutes, depending on the day, 45 minutes. Some people work out for an hour. Then it's done until the next one. Nutrition is 24/7.
Right.
So it's way less fun because it's literally 24/7,
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think I told you this probably 2-3 months, maybe 2 months ago. And I started to really dial in on my nutrition, and now the nutrition combined with the workouts, I'm starting to see gains that I really didn't expect at my age.
Yeah.
So
sure.
getting it all dialed in and working together is a big deal. So thanks for touching on that. So, all right. So this gets a little more personal, but as far as your role as a personal trainer, what I'm really curious about is I feel that obviously success is great and we can learn from success, but I feel like failure sometimes is our biggest teacher. What would you say in your professional life as far as personal trainer? What would you consider maybe as your biggest, I ain't going to say failure, not success, that you go, what, I'm glad it happened because I really learned from it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the learning part. Yeah, I don't like the word failure too much. I like to look at it something that didn't work out as a learning experience, So I like to maybe even rephrase it as let's call it my biggest disappointment. To bring it back to my professional career. Like I said, I had a great jiu-jitsu career when I was younger, great amateur MMA career, had a ton of momentum. And not even that, it was just my approach, even starting jiu-jitsu, my work ethic was second to none. It's just what I dedicated myself to fully. Even in jiu-jitsu at that time, I'm 16 at the time, we're talking 2004, there were no jiu-jitsu schools like there are now. They were few and far between. And if you found one, the instructor was probably a blue belt or purple belt. So we had to do a lot of traveling. Our first instructor was in Manhattan. A lot of good jiu-jitsu was in Manhattan. So we would take the bus a couple days a week when I could to train with our Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, who was a black belt at the time. So even just that, taking the bus into Manhattan. Then when I was training, all my coaches were scattered everywhere. Nowhere was close. Especially late in my amateur career and then my whole pro career, my main, home base was AMA Fight Club in Whippany. And at the time, that was like one of the best gyms in the Northeast. You had Jim and Dan Miller, Charlie Brenneman, Jamie Varner was there for a quick minute. Khabib was there for a quick minute. Amanda Nunes was there for a while. And that was an hour from me. So I drove an hour, a couple days a week to train with the top level guys I could. Then I was training a bunch with Mark Henry on my boxing. That was 30 to 40 minutes away. My wrestling was 30 to 40 minutes away. My strength and conditioning was 30 to 40 minutes away. I remember one camp, I was putting 1,000 miles in my car a week to train. That's all I dedicated myself to fully. So I dedicated myself since I was 16, have a great start to my career. And now it's cut to the end. I'm 500 and it doesn't look good. And I think especially as maybe in America and especially as kids, we tell you, if you want something, you just have to work hard and you'll get it, right? You work hard, you'll get it. I worked hard and I didn't get it, so that was really hard for me to deal with for a while. But like you said, what did I learn from it? If it really were not for my career, I mean, I built my business off of my reputation from it. I built relationships. Like my first pro loss was that kid, Jesus Martinez. After that fight, he reached out to me like, hey, we should train together. I did. Then I was in close contact with his brother. He wanted me to handle his weight cuts from Martinez, BJJ. And then he sent me his fighters to train. So I built this whole network based off of my career that in that point did not work out for that career, but it really, opened up to other other doors opened from that. Let's call it failure,
Yeah. Well, I'll say this though. I think too many times, a lot of people, right? We sometimes get so emotionally down from not succeeding and what we want to succeed. I feel like sometimes it might blind us to really see a door that's there, and we don't take it, right? So I think that's a credit to you for being willing to see it, step through it, and take advantage of it. As far as today's climate, obviously a lot of things going on, right? I was curious, what would you say is the biggest challenge you currently have in relation to your business, and how have you overcome it?
I mean, COVID was definitely a challenge, for any business. It was definitely nerve wracking on the first lockdown. But when we reopened, things were great. Had more clientele than ever. Luckily, classes were great as well. Our kids' martial arts classes. So really current day, I'd still say COVID, this next surge has been real annoying to me. I've either had, clients or members get sick, not from the gym, from outside, so they don't come in, or I've had people get exposed, so they want to play it safe. They don't come in maybe for a week, and then they're fine anyway.
Right.
Or someone wakes up with a stuffy nose and they don't want to risk it, which I definitely appreciate in this climate. But it's been putting kind of holes in my classes and my schedule. But, if I made it through that first lockdown and everything, it's going to be smooth sailing, hopefully, in a month or so.
Yeah, let's keep hoping for that. Definitely. All right. So I'm going to kind of end with this. So hypothetical. If you had unlimited time, resources, all the money, right? You come into a ton of money. What would you do with that money to build out your business even further?
Oh, that's a good one. Unlimited money, huh? Would I change locations? Maybe. I do like the spot I'm in. Maybe I would kind of build that out a little differently, knock some walls down, put some different walls up. Probably just give it a nice facelift aesthetically. Maybe even buy out the building. Probably hire some extra staff. It's hard to be able to, some staff that who wants to drive in 45 minutes to teach a class for what, $30, $40, so be able to just throw money at people to have them come in. That would probably be helpful. And then really too, just I've never really had a marketing budget. When we first opened, I did some Facebook marketing and it definitely paid itself off. But I really done some things with like road signage and a lot of referrals and, word of mouth has been key. So I would probably add like a massive ad budget, maybe a couple other locations, maybe one that's even close to me. Cause I live, I'm about 20 miles away from the gym. So I'm 25, 30 minutes away. So it'd be nice to open up maybe a second one right down the street, but.
Well, I'm going to keep hoping for that for you. Hopefully you come into that money, that windfall, and you start to franchise it out. Redline Athletic Centers all over the place. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get that TikTok money coming in. That's what's happening.
Yeah, everybody.
TikTok money coming in.
Look to that TikTok channel, right?
Yeah.
One other thing I did want to ask, I actually meant to ask you this a little sooner, but it's actually probably a good point here to close out. Anything that you're studying as far as the fitness industry currently that's kind of maybe newer, something new that's not, is there anything like that you're kind of keeping an eye on that you'd like to maybe incorporate?
Sure. I hate to disappoint you, but not really.
Okay.
Right now, any extra time and energy I have, I'm really diving into the TikTok because it is doing very well. And so I don't like to half-ass anything. So I'm trying to full-ass that. Okay. So, but I will say, like, when I do have fighters come in, I'm always trying to look up, like we talked about before, different types of reaction drills, cognitive drills, and things like that. But at this very moment, focused on TikTok.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I want to thank you again for this. Right now, I just want to give you an opportunity. Speaking of TikTok, just let everyone know how they can get a hold of you, social media, TikTok, website, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So when it comes to the Redline Athletic Center, you could find, just put in Google Redline Athletic Center, Bensalem, you'll find it. We're on Facebook as well, Redline Athletic Center. Same thing with Instagram, Redline Athletic Center. And for the cast iron, that's Cast Iron Chris with underscores in there. Yeah, that's where you can find all my information.
Well, Chris, this has been fantastic. And like I said, I've been coming to you for 3 years now, and I feel like I even learned a little more today. So this was really enlightening for me too. I think that people are really going to enjoy this episode. I can't wait to get it out there. So thanks again. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Take care. Bye.
See ya.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening, and remember, never hibernate on your goals.